Can you hear me? We're good? Awesome. Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
Recently, I was celebrating my 27th birthday, and when I was lighting the candles on the cake, the candle, one of them just kept flickering. And I was like, is it gonna go out? Waiting, trying to blow out the candles quick enough. And in that moment, I realized that's kind of how I felt throughout my entire life. Like a flickering candle, wondering if it was gonna make it through the night. So every flame has a story, and this is mine. I grew up really struggling with my mental health. At the age of 5 years old, they put us in these tiny little uniforms as a competitive cheerleader, and someone made a comment about my body. And suddenly, I was terrified of growing at 5 years old. I was gonna grow, but suddenly it turned into all these reasons I'm not good enough. I'm not tiny enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not athletic enough, I'm not funny enough. All of these enoughs. And by the time I was 12 years old, I was collapsing under this pressure. I actually found these letters I wrote to myself back in middle school and high school. Every year I'd write a letter to my future self, just in case I made it. And there was one letter that said, "Today you wrote your will. I don't know if you're gonna make it." And that broke my heart because I remember that feeling. I remember having that notebook and turning that page and seeing, just in case something happened to me, just in case I didn't make it, that flame went out, my sister would have my electronics, and my brother would have my toys. You can tell I really love my siblings. But I just kept trying to figure out, how do I make it through? Maybe I will make it through. So I started a blog, which wasn't a thing yet. Back in 2012, WordPress was really just getting started, and I was hoping someone out there understood, that somebody knew what I was feeling, what I was going through, and maybe they would talk about it. And for the first time, I wouldn't feel alone, and they wouldn't feel alone. But in middle school, when you do something different, that doesn't always go very well. So people teased me, they bullied me, they told me all the reasons that I wasn't good enough. I was sitting alone. I felt even more isolated than I did the very first time I talked about it. So then I would cry, and people would say, "Grow up, get over it. Big girls don't cry." Anyone ever have someone say something like that to them? Yeah? It's so annoying, isn't it? Like, if I could just not cry right now, I wouldn't. But people loved to invalidate me. And I realized how many of us just needed to be validated. How many of us never had anyone say to us, "Are you okay? How are you feeling? How can I support you?" And if one person had said that to someone else, maybe they would have said that to me. And then maybe I would have had to go through it alone. But that's not what happened. I kept writing this blog, I kept trying to talk about it, and then when I turned 15, I decided maybe they're just not hearing me. So Blog Talk Radio was starting out, and I decided I was gonna start a podcast, which again, wasn't a thing yet. I was way ahead of my time, the original blogger and podcaster. And I thought, maybe someone out there will call in and they'll say they're going through what I'm going through. And then we'll talk about it. They won't feel alone, I won't feel alone. It'll be okay. Somebody out there will get me. But that's not what happened. People kept teasing me, bullying me, telling me to just get over it. "Why are you doing this? That's weird to talk about your feelings." So I stopped talking. I remember the day in high school, I was in my AP Brit Lit class, and I just put my head down, and I did not say a single word. the entire class. My favorite class, by the way. Love that teacher. Did not speak. Just sat there, head down, and cried. And that became my future for the rest of high school. That teacher, though, Dr. Rousseau, did pull me aside and ask what was going on. There was a sudden shift in my entire personality. I went from being the kid who would not stop talking, who was always excited to read, was excited to hand in her papers to present, to being the kid who wouldn't even look up, that wouldn't even acknowledge the classroom. So she started bringing me a cake pop from Starbucks every morning. The chocolate cake pops, so good. That was a really good way to get me to school, by the way. So I showed up every morning for my cake pop, and I made it through the day. And eventually I decided, if I just smile, put on a brave face, no one will know, and no one will tease me anymore, no one will bully me, it'll be fine. Fake it till you make it, that's what they say, right? So that's what I did. I was head cheerleader. I was president of the Science National Honor Society. I was competing in science competitions. I looked like the most well-rounded, happy kid out there. And inside, I was falling apart. I would go home and sit in my closet under my stuffed animals and just cry. Just completely hiding. Wondering, will I make it? Will it actually get better? And then someone said, it's okay, just get to college. College is gonna be the best 4 years of your life. You'll graduate and everything will make sense, everything will work out. Anyone ever hear that before? Was college the best 4 years of your life?
Nope.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I heard someone graduated college in 3 years, and I decided I'm gonna be not just good enough, I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna prove that I deserve to be here. So I'm gonna do it in 2.5. I didn't sleep, I didn't eat, I didn't take care of myself. I would wake up super early and go to the gym. Then I'd take 4 a.m. shifts at Panera Bread. Then I'd go to class all day, I'd mentor kids, go work at Build-A-Bear, which was so much fun, by the way. Got paid to hang out with kids and stuff there, it was super fun. And then I went home, went to the gym, slept for 2 hours, and started it all over again. I will say one thing that really, really helped me at that time, my grandparents. My grandfather was a flip phone guy. Would not send a text message, nothing. He wouldn't even take a selfie. But when I went, it was very important. When I went to college, he went and got an iPhone. That way he could FaceTime me. He even learned to send short texts. So he would FaceTime me every morning for a cup of coffee. So we'd have a cup of coffee in the morning. And after my classes, while I was walking back to my dorm, I would call him or FaceTime him, and he was retired as a barber. And he sat there, whoever was in his chair had to wait that 30 minutes it took me to walk home to hear about my day, to hear about the cute boy that sat next to me, or that pop quiz that I had, or how much I couldn't wait for the semester to end. Whatever it was, he sat there and listened. And then every night when he had dinner at 6 o'clock, he'd FaceTime me just to pass the phone around so I could see who he was with and what they were eating. So I felt like I mattered and I was included. When I wasn't on the phone with him, I was on the phone with my grandmother, my Nona. And she would stay up all night for that 2 hours that I had to call her and cry about my finance formulas. She had no idea what I was saying. I had no idea what I was saying, what these formulas were. But she sat there through it alongside me, my entire world. Because of them, I was gonna graduate. And then life was gonna work out. It was all gonna make sense. So I held on to that idea. I'm getting ready to graduate, 2.5 years, life's about to work out. My grandparents get into a car accident. I lose my grandfather and almost lose my grandmother. And for the first time in my life, I have to grieve. I have to cope. I have to face my emotions. The same emotions I was taught to just silence stuff inside and wait for them to go away. To pretend like they didn't exist. they all came flooding to the surface. And I did not know what to do. And when I tried to talk, everyone would tell me to get over it. I remember one of my uncles getting in my face and yelling at me that all my younger cousins were looking to me to how to grieve, to how to react. So I need to be very careful. I couldn't be crying all the time. I couldn't be freaking out. I had to pull it together for them. So I tried to hold it all inside. And then Christmas Eve rolled around. And that was a day where my grandparents and I, for 15 years in a row, we started when I was 4, laid in bed and watched The Grinch together in the morning, and we'd have a cappuccino and a piece of dark chocolate. I had hot chocolate until I was probably 15, but I remember the cappuccinos very well. I was very excited when I had my first cappuccino. And that's what I looked forward to every single year. Christmas Eve, that moment, laying with my grandparents, the safest place I ever felt. And for the first time in my life, that was never gonna happen again. And I did not know how to cope. No one prepared me for that moment where life just changes in an instant. I attempted to end my life for the very first time on Christmas Eve. My uncle was the one who helped me through it. He talked to me about mental health, about therapy, about supplements, nutrition, exercise, all these different things that could play a role in how you're feeling, and that there was available to go talk to someone, and that it was okay. He skipped Christmas Eve and Christmas Day and just stayed by my side. Didn't know what to do. He didn't know if it was safe to call the hospital, what would happen to me, because these conversations weren't being held. So we just pushed it under the rug and pretended it didn't happen, but he didn't leave my side. We actually watched Wolf of Wall Street, which was not the best movie to watch with your niece, by the way. So silly. So I was very lucky, though, that he was there. I made it through that night. I went back to school to start my master's in information systems because back then I thought I wanted to learn how to code. Wasn't very good at it, but I tried. And I came home for a weekend to see how my grandmother was doing. 27 days after my first suicide attempt, I lost my uncle to suicide. The uncle who helped me. And you know what I realized? When he had that conversation with me, he understood. He knew what to say because he was feeling the exact same way. The exact same way. And I was so mad. Because how did I not know? How did I not know he was struggling too? So I blamed myself. I withdrew from my master's program at the time, moved in with my aunt and little cousins, and tried to take care of them. I didn't sleep, I didn't eat, I didn't move my body, I didn't do anything other than run around with them and try to figure out how to help them make it through that time. I was drowning inside and I was just faking it till I make it. I ended up attempting suicide 2 more times and landed myself in a psych unit. And for the first time, what 12-year-old me was trying to find, someone out there who understood, who she could have a conversation with, I was now stuck in a place full of people who got it, who we could actually have a conversation. And I realized I wasn't the only one who needed that conversation. For so long, I thought it was just me. Everyone around me made fun of me, teased me, bullied me, so I must be the only one feeling this way. I must be the only one who wants to talk about it. But it wasn't true. I always say when I walk through that psych unit doors, I could not imagine a place darker than my brain until I saw the inside. The walls were so beige and falling apart. The windows were so thick there was no natural light. The balcony was caged in. I felt like I wasn't a human being. I actually did not have any water these 6 days I was there. You had to get water at a certain time, and I never knew the time. I was too afraid to ask. So I was struggling more and more with this idea of, I don't belong. I didn't get new tools while I was there. I didn't get access to any additional resources. I was now a statistic in a fractured system who legally they had to make sure made it through that 72 hours. I was held a week, and then their legal responsibility was done. Good luck. So when I got out, I had no idea what to do. I was like, I don't want to be here. You just made me feel like I don't belong, and then threw me back into a world that kept going when my time stood still. What do I do? So, true to my nature, 12-year-old me kicked in, and she decided she was going to do something. So I made a conversation guide for my parents. I was like, maybe we can talk about it. They just don't know what to say. Because what do you say to your child who says, I don't want to be alive anymore? Right? If no one's ever had that conversation with you, you've never been exposed to anything related to mental health, didn't know it was okay to talk about it, what do you say other than react with fear? So I made them a conversation guide. I taught them how to use validation statements, how to ask non-judgmental, open-ended questions that actually set us up for conversation, how to follow up, because the conversation didn't just end the minute we walked away. And they would hold on to that guide, and to this day, my dad sometimes uses a good validation statement, and I'm very proud. They're learning, it's great. It took 7 years, but they're learning. So I made this guide, and then I made worksheets for myself. Why do people love me? I texted my friends, why do you love me? Turns out it had nothing to do with how I looked or what I had. All these insecurities and fears that I had at the age of 5 years old had nothing to do with why people wanted me in their life or what my value was to them. It was that I checked in, that I showed up, that I made them laugh, that I was just there, that we grew up and went through everything together and we always stood by each other's side. That's what made them love me. So I made a worksheet for myself. This is why they love me. Why do I love myself? And I started translating it into affirmations, things I could say to myself. And then I was like, okay, now I know how to talk to myself a little bit. What can I do when I'm feeling overwhelmed and all these negative thoughts are happening? So I started making a worksheet for coping skills. I didn't have any of the terminology at this time, by the way, so it was not called affirmations or coping skills. It was, what do I do to make it through? How do I survive? A lot of it was just counting to 10 in the beginning. If I could make it through 10 seconds, that means 10 moments passed. That moment passed, I survived. So life became counting to 10. And it was working. So one day I had all of these worksheets in front of me, and I turned it into a workbook. And I was like, it would have been so cool if I learned any of this when I was in the psych unit. Or maybe beforehand, growing up, I knew that I could tell myself I love myself, and that didn't mean I was being conceited and selfish. That I could tell someone, I'm not comfortable having this conversation right now, and walk away. I didn't have to be forced to be in things that I wasn't comfortable with. If I knew any of those small things, maybe we wouldn't have known what it's like to sit in the back of a cop car. Maybe we would not have been transported to a psych unit. Maybe I wouldn't know what it feels like to feel like you're not a human being with no rights. So I decided I'm going to do something with that. I created the first workbook and published it. Then I decided I needed to learn more tools. I needed to learn how to ask for help. No one had ever taught me how to say, hi, I'm Fran, I am so overwhelmed. My assignments are way too much. I have 10 teachers who think the only thing I do is their classwork. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to build my schedule. Can you help me? I didn't know how to say, I am really struggling with feeling like I'm not good enough. I need a therapist. I need someone I can just talk to who can help me find the tools. I didn't know how to ask for anything. So I started making worksheets for myself. And then I had a second workbook. And that was pretty cool. Then I was like, how do I just check in with myself and encourage myself through those moments? Workbook 3. Now we have 6 workbooks, working to build curriculum so that kids gain these tools before they need them. And that's when I realized this flame within me that was flickering, even if I took that flame and I started passing it on to other people, it didn't take away from me. I didn't start to deplete. My flame didn't go out because I was helping others. I was just lighting someone else's candle along the way. I was spreading some light back to others. I then started coloring cards for myself. I needed to keep my hands busy. So I started coloring these cards that said, you're enough, you matter, you're gonna get through this, you can handle this. And I had a bunch of cards in front of me and thought it would have been really cool if someone sent this to me when I was in the psych unit. Because in the hospital, people show up with cards and stuffed animals and all of these things. In the psych unit, you're lucky if you get one visitor. You're lucky if someone calls that phone to talk to you. You're lucky if someone picks up the phone when you call. So what if I had received that back then? I've now done over 27,700 handmade cards to patients hospitalized in psych units. Thank you. But I took what I was going through, what I was feeling, what was very real to me, what I needed, and I just started conversations. Started a podcast, started talking about it, had conversations with over 200 people from around the world, people from Nigeria, India, Australia, anywhere and everywhere, someone who has a story to tell, because we all do. We all have a flame within us. All of our stories matter. So all I did was take what I needed and start sharing it with others. So my candle lit someone else's candle, that lit someone else's candle. If you wouldn't mind, do you all have your phones with you? I'm sure you do. Lift them up. I know you missed your phone. Turn that flashlight on. Put it up in the air. Together, let's multiply the light. Thank you.